Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity for me to speak on the second reading of Marriage Act Amendment Bill. Before I talk about the bill, I thank all the staff and officials who worked during the Select Committee hearings and collection of submissions. Significant number of submissions that were received both against and in favor of the bill. I will also like to thank all the submitters for their written and oral submissions. I also take this opportunity to thank the Chair of the Government Admin Select Committee, Honourable Ruth Dyson, and other members for all the hard work they have put in this process. Mr. Speaker, I begin by sharing one of the verses from the Holy Guru Granth Sahib, the living Guru of Sikhs, which is, Aval Allah Noor Upaya, Kudrat ke sab bande, Ek Noor te sab jag upjaya, Kaun bhale ko mande. When translated, this would most likely read, the Lord first created his own light, and out of the light was created all human being. How can then be one human being good, and this other cannot be? Mr. Speaker, my religious belief and faith is Sikhism. The purpose of me sharing this verse with my parliamentary colleagues and you is to clarify that it is not in my religion, culture or heritage to discriminate anyone on any base. I do not believe that anyone of us residing in New Zealand is a second-class citizen. I note that some of my opposition colleagues redefining what constitutes marriage may not be much of a big deal. However, from what my community has shared with me is most of us it is. I base my position not only on any historical belief, but rather what I saw and heard when I went with the open mind to the Select Committee hearings across New Zealand. However, at each of the Select Committee hearings, none of the arguments presented by the submitters provided any significant rationale for redefining the word marriage. Furthermore, the rights that are being sought are already provided for under the civil union. In case there are any changes required in civil union law, can be tweaked to accommodate these changes. However, to change the definition of marriage from what it is historically been to something that offends majority of people inappropriate, especially when those argue for the change have little way of reasoning to support their argument. The basis of the bill in that marriage is a social institution is fundamental human right for all people, regardless of sex, sexual orientation, or gender identity, and that all should therefore have equal opportunity to it without discrimination or limiting the human rights to one group in the society only, which would now allow for equality. In my counter-argument, can I just say that right to marry is not, never can be an absolute human right. The law of this country does not permit close family members to marry each other or children or people who are already married. In each case, Mr. Speaker, there is good reason for such restriction. None of them can be classified as discrimination. And can I also ask a counter question? Does anyone who opposed to the view put forward does not enjoy the same human rights as people who seek this amendment? Do we have the right to express what we feel about the issue which stands to change our society? Mr. Speaker, neither in the claim that the same-sex marriage is basic human right correct. If this was the case, the rights would have been enriched in major international human rights agreements signed by New Zealand, in particular the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Those who argue that by proposing this bill, they seek to defend the human rights do sound rigorous, but people who advocate for the change have, in my opinion, failed to consider the grave implication that the change they seek will have on our society. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, those who feel the retrace about redefining marriage should ask if including the polyamorous relationship should be consented for our society. They should ask the question to themselves, what will be the impact of agreeing to the polyamorous relationship in our society? Mr. Speaker, apart from the rational argument and the question I have put forward and asked earlier, can I ask simplistic question to those who argue that the same-sex couple will allow to marry? Can I ask the word marriage will add any sugar or flavor to their relationship? During one of the public hearings, I was pleased to see a family who had come to support their daughter's submission. By the way, the submission was in support of the bill. The family bond is one special thing we are fortunate to enjoy in New Zealand. During the hearing, I asked the family if being in civil union or marriage will affect her or her family bond in any manner. They said no. Some have classed my comment as discriminatory. Again, I refer to my opening statement and assure all my brothers and sisters that I believe in humanity and human rights, and as much as they do. All the human beings are equal regardless of where they come from. I honestly do not believe that standing my position on marriage, I am discriminating against anyone. Marriage for me is something that has unique sanctity inherent in its divine origin, given to the humanity and the pattern and the plan for the perpetuation of society. This attempt to refine marriage is causing considerable amount of anxiety in religious organizations and their staff. The prevailing view of churches from Catholic to Pentecost is that the marriage is spiritually sacred to many people in our society. The New Zealand Christian community as a whole rejects the notion that there is no biblical view of marriage. The standard biblical view of marriage, first revealed in Genesis and then endorsed by Jesus, is the faithful union of one man and woman. Any other form of marriage is never endorsed by Old Testaments. The idea of same-sex marriage is biblically unthinkable. Therefore, the Church also considers that the Civil Union Act 2004 already provides for the clear societal recognition and legal protection of same-sex relationship. The Select Committee listened very closely to the submissions made by the Church and thereby recommended that in case the bill is passed, no church minister or pastor can be forced to undertake a same-sex wedding. This, I think, is an excellent example of how democratic our nation is. Mr. Speaker, as a citizen of this country, I acknowledge, accept, and respect the aspiration of the homosexual people as citizens of Aotearoa to have their partnership recognized by the society and fully protected by the law. However, the social and legal argument presented by those forwarding this argument does not make a compelling case. My concern is to protect the uniqueness of the marriage as a union of a man and a woman. Once again, Mr. Speaker, I fully endorse the principle of equality as human beings. However, I assert that while the people are equal, not all relationships are the same. Mr. Speaker, rather than listening to the catch cries which are based on individualistic argument, and we parliamentarians must consider the large public good and expectations when we vote on this bill. The larger public good and expectation is rather most of New Zealanders do not accept this. Society believes it has the right to do anything, however, it takes little or no responsibility for the consequences of its action. Our Australians, our neighbours, have recently defeated the equivalent legislation of Marriage Act Amendment Bill with the resulting vote 42 in favour and 98 against.
Order.
I hope
the member's time has expired. The Honourable Leanne